This is the M3 24-inch iMac. Now, when the iMac first launched, it was a wonderful little computer that was kind of made for mom and dad, your wife who doesn't care about technology, people named Roger, people like that. It did everything right to cover that basic chunk of users. It's a sleek, slim, and beautiful design with excellent color options. It works seamlessly with the most popular phones in the US. And the screen is vibrant, clear, and the speakers sound pretty good. And it's simple. And simple is easy to understand and easy to recommend. And now it's still a lot of the same. It's still the same colors, it's still the same terrible mouse, still the same great Touch ID. But what's different is the M3 chip, and that makes it not just simple, but very good. Now, my name is Josh, and I did purchase this computer. It's not a review unit sent out by Apple. Okay, so the specs of this device. This was $1,900. This was the M3 8-core CPU, 10-core GPU model with the RAM upgrade to 16 gigabytes, so it does go to an optional 24 gigabytes. And this does have the 500 gig storage option. Now, I do wish there was an optional upgrade for the M3 Pro and Max chips, as well as GPU upgrades, but they don't currently have those. I do think those upgrades would potentially make this a very interesting computer for power users. But I think right now they're trying to avoid kind of interrupting their Mac Studio sales, if I had to guess. These days, everybody talks about workflows, but the truth is that workflows range from sending emails and text documents to designing aerodynamic propellers in CAD software to doing what I do, which is editing videos. And even editing videos has different levels to it. Are you editing for Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, or full-on movies? So everybody has a different workflow. I think this does a good job of expanding the potential workflow to kind of, I'd say, medium-high power users like I am. Like, I regularly max out all of my computers because of the work I do, but I'm also not going crazy over the top. In my opinion, when the M1 iMacs came out, they were really not powerful enough to handle my workflow. I didn't really consider them a real option in that category. So I'll use my own workflow as an example. Now, I edit mostly in Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. Now, Premiere Pro has been notoriously unreliable and not great and very poorly optimized for the Mac. And so historically, compared to an equivalently priced PC, usually it doesn't run very well. But now the computers are so powerful that they're able to bridge that gap anyways and make something that works extremely well. So as an example, I have the M3 Pro, MacBook Pro also here. And I wanted to see if I could render the same video and see which one would perform better. Now, to nobody's surprise, the laptop performs better here because it's a better chip and a better GPU, but the iMac actually stood out to me for being really good. The timeline scrubbing was really smooth. Now, this is a 100 gigabyte project that was shot exclusively on the A7S III, a very common camera type from Sony. So it's very common files that people should be familiar with. And this is on Premiere Pro in unoptimized software. So I'm kind of throwing a lot at it. The MacBook fully rendered this in about 17 minutes. And the iMac took about 26 minutes. Now, that's not great, but it's totally usable for a low-level professional who's not creating several videos a day. Somebody who wants to render maybe 1 to 2 videos a day. This 30-minute wait time is not really that big of a deal. And because the computer's so capable nowadays, you can still use the computer while you're rendering a video in the background. Awesome performance. Now, admittedly, I was a little bit worried about the screen. My only interactions with the iMacs previously had been in a store. And in the Apple store, it's like very bright. You have the sunlight coming in. And the screen just really never looked that impressive. I was a little bit worried about it. But back here, even with bright studio lights and everything, this is still a very vibrant and vivid and kind of bright screen. Doesn't get quite up to the peak brightness that some monitors do, of course, but I think in kind of general day-to-day use, even though I always have this completely maxed out, I do think that it gets, I guess, bright enough. And it looks beautiful. Their out-of-box calibration on these Retina displays it's really fine-tuned. These things look excellent right away. Now, as good as I find this computer to be, I do have some complaints. The interaction with this computer, for 2 reasons, feels old. It feels sluggish. I think it's a very capable computer, but compared to Apple's other devices, I think all of their desktop computers feel slow for 2 reasons. One is the refresh rate of the screens on their Studio display, XDR display, and their iMac. It's locked at 60 Hertz. It doesn't go into that ProMotion high refresh rate capability, which they have on their phones, their iPads, their laptops. These devices visually look and feel a lot snappier because of that high refresh rate display. And in some ways, that makes computers like this, and even their full-on XDR $6,000 display, they feel a bit behind because they're not high refresh rate. Now, I know they're very good in other areas like color reproduction, and that is valuable. Another big gripe I have is the wireless tech that is in their keyboards and in their trackpads. It's slow. And when you compare it to other companies which are using much faster standards for wireless transfer these days, companies like Logitech, for example, with their Lightspeed tech, right? These feel noticeably slower. When it comes to going to a hardwired trackpad like on the MacBook Pros and a high refresh rate display, which feels very connected to the computer, it feels very smooth and fluid, to something that feels a bit disconnected and you can really tell the time delay on, it feels old. One thing I was really hoping for when I was watching their Halloween keynote was a ProMotion iMac Pro. I know that wasn't in the rumors, but I keep hoping for it. Either 27 inches or 32 inches would be great. If they do that, I probably will transfer over. But right now, with their extremely compelling Mac Studio and their Studio display, the one thing that's holding me back is the interaction speed with these devices, especially with that refresh rate lock. I just wish it was a little bit better. Now, I could plug in some peripherals, I know that, but because they're so limited in I/O, every port seems extremely valuable to me, especially on the lower end model, which only has 2 Thunderbolts total, and that's it. And it feels so crummy to have to use your valuable USB space for something that they should really be kind of catching up to the times with. Like what even is this thing? Terrible product. So this brings me to the 3 options you have. You could buy, you could upgrade, or you could wait. Now, when it comes to buying, if you don't have a modern computer at all, this thing is going to seem like an absolute dream. It is a extremely thin, like really fine piece of technology. It's really refined if you're not coming from much else. That is something that I totally give Apple credit for. If you are a person who upgrades every like 10 years for their computer, this is going to feel like a magical piece of equipment. And I would kind of break it down like this. If you've watched this whole video and any of the complaints I've had, you are thinking, oh, well, that's not a big deal or that's not important to me, then I think this is as good a time as any to purchase this computer. Now, should you upgrade? This really depends on what you're coming from. If you're coming from the Intel iMacs, again, big upgrade here. It's going to seem a lot faster. Even things down to basic web page loading is going to seem very quick. Now, if you're coming from the M1 iMac, I'm going to assume that you're probably not a power user and you're probably just somebody who's kind of doing a lot of emails, basic internet web search stuff. And in that case, this computer isn't really going to change a whole lot for you because it's still locked at the 60 Hertz, because you're still using these Bluetooth peripherals. It's going to feel about the same, and those M1s were really, really good at stuff like that. So for those people, I don't think you need to upgrade. Now, should you wait? This is the area that I'm in. And I think, yes, I think that this is a really good device, but it doesn't quite have the step up in the interaction that I'm looking for that some of their other devices are so good at having. These devices feel so liquid and responsive in a way that the low refresh rate display just kind of ruins for me. So I'm personally going to wait for the iMac Pro if it ever does come out, or at least a version of the Studio display that has high refresh rate, in which case I'll get the Mac Studio and the Studio display. But really, until they come out with faster displays, I think I'm on the waiting game. All right, that's going to be it for the iMac review. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Bye.